Okay, so when is it showing?
Yes, sir.
When is it showing the date? Form fill up? You're checking?
From 24th to 4th. It is going on right now. Like it is an ongoing process currently.
24th, 4th, and is there any exam schedule given till now or only the tentative date?
No, sir. No exam schedule. Only this notice has been given out till now.
Practicals and theory generally don't happen back to back. Either the practicals start first or the theory. So what is it this time?
It is saying that IA practical fieldwork, project dissertation, term paper, etc. If any to be completed, that is by 19th of September. But this is only a notice that one of our friends have collected and given to us. The college has not
Official notice is
given us
not
this
there.
notice. No,
So are they saying that the theory exams will start or is it the practicals that will start first?
practicals are bound to start first if this is correct.
Practicals will start first. So in that case, I think it would be on the safer side if on the upcoming sessions we are rather doing the practical sessions, okay? Because
Hmm.
so it should not be. My sources also say that the practical exams will start somewhere in and around 21st for Burdwan University semester 2. So if the practicals are starting on the dates as told by like 21st or 22nd, so I think that the upcoming sessions we have, we should be doing the practical sessions. That would help us to stay prepared for the practical exams. And after that, I'm sure that there will be another gap in between, um, after which the theory will start. So previous time, what was the gap there between the theory and the practical?
And so I just what you were saying in the last portion, your voice
I was saying
went
that
off.
was there any gap between the theory and the practical exams maintained in semester one?
For semester one, everything had to be I'm sorry, everything had to be rescheduled continuously because of the continuous shutting down of colleges due to the heat waves. And firstly, the practical was to be completed on 19th of April. But due to the heat wave notice, and then the semester one theory exam started, our practical exam actually happened on 6th of May.
So just try to get it from your seniors or from the department that previous year what was the general schedule followed for the practicals and the theory exams. Just the previous year schedule. Try to gather it.
All
That
right,
would
sir.
that would give us an idea, and more or less they follow that same schedule. I'm saying there's just a dates change, but more or less the time gap remains the same. Though it's a pretty they are say adventurous university, as you know, so they have done a lot of mischievous schedules and deadlines earlier also. Let's hope that it is not in your time. So with that being told, today's session, as you know, that we are going to go with the next part. Just let me show you the syllabus for you to have an idea on that what is the part that we are going to do today. It's primarily going to be a new unit. Uh, so here, as you can see, this is going to be the general topic today. I hope the screen is being clearly shared. So we are going
Yes,
to talk about the complex relationships that the human civilizations have shared with specific reference to that of deserts. Or what, in short, we can also say that what roles do human beings play in the making or creation of our deserts. In certain extents and certain observations have also given us data that prove that human beings and the civilizational changes have played a greater role in the making of new deserts due to various reasons. So we are going to see that. So before we begin, I would like to know that what is your preconceived notion on this? Do you believe that human beings can actually create deserts?
with the current pace of things that have been ongoing in the last few years, it is pretty much possible, but mostly not because deserts are a complex system. It's a complex biome system. Just because the lack of vegetation and lack of water does not is a primary aspect of desert, but it is not the ultimate goal of deserts.
You're
So
exactly right. You're exactly right. That often there is a misconception out in the market that we think that Whenever there is scarcity of water and when there is scarcity of vegetation, we can call it a desert. But actually, desert's definition is not that simple. So, most importantly, we can say here that the desert's duration period is way longer than what we can imagine. So, for a region to persist with the same arid climate, lack of vegetation, and lack of water for a considerable period of time, it's rather difficult. Very few places could maintain that time frame. Then they could be estimated under the category of a desert. So, just we are going to see that the new term that you're going to learn here today is the term of desertification. And we are going to learn that how we can combat it and what roles have human beings played over the years. So, any idea about what is this desertification? Though by the name itself is very much, illustrative or self-explanatory.
So the term desertification is, implies the involvement of humans or a slow transformation that has been, triggered by something that outside the current pace of environment that has, engaged in the process. So here, desertification means the gradual absence of, what should I say, vegetation and water and turning of, um and there is no, as there is no vegetation, there is no, what should I say, anchor to hold down the soil. So there is, loose soil also present. I'm not actually,
Yeah,
it's a
I can
pretty.
understand. I can understand what you're trying to mean. So what we can comprehend here is that desertification, we can term it as something that is on process. It is not something that is the outcome. Desertification is definitely not an outcome. It is an ongoing process. So what is the process about? The process is generally about a conversion or transition of a zone that was previously not under the category of a desert into the formation of a desert. So there is a lot of things that can fall under this time of transition or this time of transformation. So that totally depends region to region. So to begin the thing, so we can say that deserts, the general opinion which is in our minds, is often the barren lands that is devoid of any life, but they also have their own unique system, unique ecosystem. That is something which we often forget. That just by seeing the barrenness or seeing the ruggedness of a desert, that generally does not mean there is no life. Even desert has a very diverse ecosystem, a great variety of animals that can thrive only in that climate, a greater variety of plants. And by plants, I here just do not mean the cactuses, which are very common when we think of deserts. There are a lot of other varieties also which can thrive under these dry and arid climates devoid of water. And by devoid of water, this is also something that is highly controversial. Devoid of water, generally, many people make a understanding that there is no water at all. No, the concept is wrong. Water is definitely there, but it is out of reach. That is the thing. Why out of reach? Because the general plant roots, the general kinds of plants which we see in and around our environment, the deepness of their roots is way shorter than the deepness of the roots that we see in the desertic plants. So, do you know that what are the general category of plants that we see in the deserts? What do we call them?
They're mostly the thorny plants, like
Thorny
cactuses,
plants and shrubs. And there is
shrub. Yeah.
also a very biological reasons behind the thorns being embedded in them. So the thorns,
Yes,
first
yes.
and foremost, as you know, it's to save them from the predators, because the animals who are moving in and around there, they can also look for food, and they take plants as a very good option. So to save certain plants, fruits, or their flowers, they have developed this defensive mechanism of thorns. Some thorns are also poisonous in nature, which can also cause death of certain animals. So this is just a defense mechanism that has been developed over a few thousand years. And now the plants that we are seeing now, they are just a conversion, or we can say a developed form of a plant that had been trying to, adapt itself with the environment. Now, by adaptation, what are the basic challenges for a plant if you see from the perspective of a plant? So the first problem that it faces is the extreme heat. So to combat this extreme heat, it is very essential for the plants to have a very strong outer layer. So it is due to that more or less you will see that the plants have a very thick outer layer. The leaves also, they are very, very thick in nature. It is for two purposes. One is to save itself from the extreme heat waves, and the next thing is also to store water. Because as I told you, the deserts concept has come from the unavailability of water or shortage of water. So it's very essential for any animal that lives over there that they can store water, or they can live by using the lesser and lesser amount of water. That is why if you go to a desert, there are certain kinds of cactuses. Basically, the ones that I am putting it on the screen, the ones you can see, they are very familiar
Hmm.
with the desertic climate. If you cut through a desertic plant like this cactus, do you know what you will see as soon as you cut through it from the middle by using a sharp knife?
It will just emit out a milky white sap, like sap in most cases.
Yes, could you please repeat yourself? I did not get that.
I was saying that it will emit out, or it will, ooze out a sap. Most cases, it is white because of the toxins and other materials that are, dissolved into the sap, and it can be transparent too.
Yes, you're right that there are definitely some sacs, and the main utility of the sacs is for the purpose of storing water. And these sacs are also for some other purposes, which is something related with the biology of the plant. And more importantly, as I told you, when you are going to cut through it, you will see that a lot of water is oozing out. It is due to the fact that water stays embedded in within the body of the plant to a greater amount. So there is a lot of water stored in. That is why the earlier Bedouins who used to travel for a long period over the deserts, they used to walk for long distances. They used to identify certain plants in the deserts which could give them source of water. Say for instance, if they're stuck in a place where there is not water and they're walking for days, so they used to find these certain categories of plants which could give them water by simply cutting them off, by cutting their shoots. So these are some of the mechanisms in which these plants have been adapting themselves. And in this presentation, you are also going to explore the complex relationships between the humans and the environment with specific reference with desertic region. We are also going to examine the traditional knowledge and practices of indigenous people that have allowed them to thrive in these challenging landscapes. And next, we will also know that what are the modern challenges that are being faced by the communities. And some of the challenges you will also find that the communities themselves have put in front of nature. That's making the work even tougher for nature to keep it a habitable place. So we will emphasize the need of action as usual to preserve them and the cultures that are highly dependent on this ecosystem. So another overview, as you can see, that deserts are of different kind. By this picture you can understand. The previous picture showed you a greater variety of sand dunes. There were so many kinds of sand overlays, sand flats, salt flats, but this one is a rather more barren topography compared to the previous one, because here you can see that the topography is so rugged and so barren that it's almost looking as if we could see some straight in cracks and openings in the soil.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it is totally due to, I would say, first and foremost due to the type of underlying rocks present over that region. That can be the reason. And next can also be the intensity of the heat waves that have been present in the region. So definitely, if we can analyze these two pictures, you will see that the intensity of the heat waves will be different. The kind of soil, the kind of rocks present beneath is different. So their overall outlook is looking somewhat different. So as I was saying, desertification is the process by which the fertile land is turning into a desert. So it is an ongoing process of conversion. Typically, it can be due to the result of a drought, a deforestation, or
Yes,
even
yes.
inappropriate agriculture. The process can have severe consequences of human environmental relations in desertic regions, as it can also lead to soil erosion, loss of biodiversity, and even decreased agricultural productivity. So there were three primary reasons that I have put forward here that can lead into the type of desertification. With the first one being the deforestation, then the droughts, and the inappropriate agriculture. So what do you think in context of India? If we see that there is rapid growing cases of desertification, especially in the northern part of our country, so which of these three is the biggest reason, according to you?
It's primarily, I would say, a mixture of deforestation and inappropriate agriculture.
Yes, because if we analyze properly, we will find that droughts are actually the overall outcome of inappropriate agriculture and deforestation.
Yes.
Drought itself cannot be a separate reason. It is not that it is a global phenomena that will happen each and every year in one place or the other. Droughts are something which I believe is man constructed. So if you are not doing certain things that lead to a drought, drought will not happen. So definitely inappropriate agriculture can accelerate the coming of droughts, and deforestation, as you know, it is a really big problem all over the country and if not the globe. Specifically, you see that in the present context, if we say that there is a constant endeavor, especially in our northern belt. I'm talking about the highly elevated belt, especially the mountainous parts. There is a you see there is a proneness of these governments to cut through the forest and build these new highways. Now, by making highways, I'm not saying that that is bad for the country. Definitely, for a country to progress and for our overall defense system to work properly, for our overall cultural integrity to maintain it, we need to develop our roadways. We need to make newer train lines. That is important. But it is very essential to find the right routes, the right tracks. If you go through the recent news, you will see that rains have caused massacre in the Himachal Pradesh area. They have caused massacre. Though each and every year it is very evident that there will be some floods, it is due to the geography and the location of mountainous regions that floods are very common due to the positioning and the way in which the rivers do flow in that place. So there is a gradual expansion in the rainy season. It has been happening over thousands of years. It's not something that is new. But in the recent few years, especially the last 10, 20 years, if we analyze the recent scheme of things, we will see that they have become very, very destructive to a state in which once the rainy season is being over, the community is taking at least 1 or 1.5 year time to come back to normalcy. And again, another flood is coming. So this has been the case in cases of the mountainous the areas of Uttarakhand, Himachal, and to some extent, I would also say Kashmir region, especially the southern belt. So this is all we need to understand that the world works in equilibrium. In geomorphology, there was a very fine concept of isostasy. I hope you remembered that. So that said that everything works in proportion. So the good that you do to a region or the betterment that is happening in a region is not constrained to that region. It will also propagate itself to the other parts of the world. Say, for instance, if there is a ozone hole being created in the on the North Pole, from where the ultraviolet rays are seeping in, it will not only harm the North Pole, it will harm every single territory. It will harm every single part of the world because the world works in chain process. The world works in proper cohesion. So it must have been the increase of desertification, the increase of this deforestation in certain parts of the country, which has led to this exact outflow of water from the other. So if we analyze it very properly, we will find that there is a rapid scale of increased deforestation or inappropriate agriculture happening over the series of years in certain parts of India, which is leading to these catastrophic floods because everything is interlinked. As I told you, if we analyze properly, we will find that not a single thing is outside the chain of nature. Everything is intertwined with one another. And if you are, changing something or the other, trying to manipulate it, it will not only remain restricted to that area. So the outcome will also move out to the other parts. So that is what we can see if we see with special reference to India. So it's very obvious that the effects of the desertation or the desertification is particularly devastating for the indigenous communities who rely on the land for their livelihoods. So if they do not have the access to these fertile lands, these communities may be forced to migrate and rely on the external aid for survival. So what can happen next? The desertification impacts will be now moving towards the climatic change. leading to more frequent and severe droughts and wildfires and other natural disasters. So you can see that how one natural phenomena can now imply to a cultural process, and that can affect the demography of a country also. If a large section of people are migrating from one place to another, what will happen? There will be population imbalance also. There
Hmm.
will be increased pressure on the community, and one region will be totally barren. And why is this excessive number of fertile lands being converted to deserts? It's all due to the unscientific processes that have been in high pace all over the world, not only in India. If you study the agricultural processes of India, you will see they are highly backdated, and they really require some amounts of advancements, which is not being done by any of the governments that we have seen in the recent years. It is due to the fact that we can see these outcomes. So there also has been certain cultural aspects that are related with this, because as I was saying, we are going to talk about the relation between the human community and nature in respect with deserts. So here you can see that the indigenous people living in the desert regions have a very well developed wealth of traditional knowledge, because their ancestors have been living there for a greater period of time. So it's very natural, they know their place very well. And for water conservation techniques to medicinal plant use, these practices are very well deeply embedded in their cultures and identities, because their previous communities, their previous generations have lived in that rugged topography. So they are very well equipped of how to stay there, how to sustain there. So, like for example, if you see some indigenous groups in the Sahara Desert, you will also see that they have developed some unique techniques for locating and accessing water resources, such as digging shallow wells or constructing underground tunnels called canals. So, while others you will see they have also learned the art of cultivating crops, and that is able to survive in these arid conditions. Like the drought resistant millets, millets really require a lot less water compared to the other crop varieties, and
Hmm.
sorghum. So these practices not only provide sustenance to their communities, but also help provide them to preserve their fragile ecosystem which they live in. So, what, according to you, do you think they are the biggest challenges in front of the desertic regions? I'm not saying by challenges here, I generally do not mean that we should be looking forward to convert the desert region into a highly vegetated land. That's not the outcome, let me tell you, because every single part of our nature is important. That's something that we often forget. We think that by the advancement of technology, if technology is advanced, we will turn all deserts into forested area or agricultural land. We will convert all the ice water into drinkable water. So, do you think that these outcomes, these goals which we have conceived in our minds, they are the right way to go? Is there no requirement of deserts in the world?
Absolutely not. Deserts, as much as tropical forests, evergreen areas, grasslands, they are also an integral part of the global ecosystem that has been existing for thousands of years. They, and if you try to eliminate one element or the other, you know, this balance is bound to happen.
So it's very obvious, as you told, rightfully so, that every single part of the world or every single biome of the world have their own beauty, have their own requirement, without which our environment will not be able to function the way it is. So, like we see, if we talk about the modern challenges in case of the desertic regions, we will see that they face a number of modern challenges that threaten the delicate balance between human and the environmental systems. Like the climate change, for example, if you see, it's causing desertification to spread at a greater rate. It's not like climate change is something that can devastate the world. I believe climate change is something that is an overhyped concept. Why overhyped? Can you tell me why do I say so, or do you believe that climate change is actually something that can be life threatening?
Uh, it is pretty much an overall concept that has been, what should I say, fueled by the Western propaganda, where they are, hyping up the sustainable living and, taking care of the environment. Climate change is bound to happen. We cannot stop that. It is the climate is changing at cyclic order, as according to the Milanophobic cycle. It
Exactly.
we cannot stop the pace of climate change. We cannot stop it. the changes that the earth is enduring. But what is seriously concerning in my opinion, that everything that should occur at a natural pace has been accelerated by 1,000 times due to the modern human activities. So that's
Exactly,
what
to the
we
point.
should be
Right.
with.
Right point here. Exactly, you got the right point. That's exactly what I was also going to say. That the Milankovitch cycle already is proving the fact that climate change is something that is not here for hundreds or thousands of years. It is there since the beginning of life in Earth, or even before that. Because if this climatic change was not there, then life itself would not have been possible. Life would have been washed away from the Earth. It's very important to have this change of order, or we can say that this various natures of change of climate, because without which the earth will not be able to change its mechanism and newer species will not be able to evolve. So am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So as I was saying that without which the earth will not be able to function, if we are stopping or trying to play God by saying that we will be able to overturn the process of climatic change, which can we clearly say that it's entirely impossible. It is not possible no matter how well equipped the human civilization is, because it is something that is totally governed by the universe. The universe governs the movement of the earth, and the earth governs the climatic change. So no matter what do we do, I don't think that human beings have that reach and capacity to reach a limit where we will be able to control the things that are happening in the universe. So until and unless we are capable enough to play God, then these things are something that would stay in our minds. These things are something that are just propaganda. So, as you told, that was also right, that we are accelerating the process. It's definitely correct, because the pace at which this climate used to change, they had a very strict and, I would say, a rather compatible change, which was, observable by the species living in the earth. They have been seeing it since millions of years happening in the earth, and certain species perished while certain species also evolved due to this climatic change. And we, the human beings who are saying that climatic change kills species, we should also remember that the concept of Homo sapiens, or the concept of the primates, would not have been possible if climatic change did not happen. Our own species is a result of climate change, because if we go through the historical times, we will be seeing that there was hardly any big mammals present on the earth. Mostly there were reptiles to begin with. But do you know that there was a period after the Jurassic period when a greater number of dinosaurs had perished, even certain reptiles perished. After that time, we see the rise of mammals. And then the mammals had developed to a stage where we are today. So we must believe that though it's very evident that with climatic change, certain species will definitely be wiped out from the world again. It is something that will happen. We can do nothing about it. We need to know that. And if our name is also in that list, then we will perish. We cannot do anything about it. But it will also give rise to a newer set of species. A newer set of species will also evolve due to the climatic change that will come forward. Now, our goal as a community should be to elongate the time, to extend the time in which we will be living in the earth, and just not to try to play God, because anybody who has tried to play God and tried to control the universe or things that do happen in forms of nature, they have all paid the price. If you go back to history, you will see that all have paid the price. So these challenges, though they require urgent action, but we still need to think of preserving certain unique cultures and environments of desertic regions. Like we need to invest in sustainable development practices by supporting the local communities while also protecting the environment. So the other ways can be around, we need to work together to address the root cause of climatic change. Though as I told you that we will not be able to reverse it, just elongate it. And by taking action, we can ensure that the future generations will be able to enjoy the beauty and the diversity of the desertic regions for years to come. And let me tell you that the desertic world that you can see in and around you, if we again go back to the prehistoric time, you will also see certain evidences that the desertic regions were one of the mostly vegetated parts of the world ever. All the deserts that you see today, they were highly vegetated sometime or the other. And all the highly vegetated areas that you're seeing now, if you go back to record, it's very surprising to see that most of them were deserts or icy regions. So you can understand it is a cyclic process. It's something that is entirely natural, and it's not something that we should spread rumors on like it will destroy the universe. The Earth is definitely smart, and as I always say, no matter how much harm we do to nature or how big we think we are that we can destroy Earth one day, human beings will destroy the universe. We are not that big really, and the Earth will come back if we try to go beyond our threshold. It will come back by the avalanches, it will come back by the landslides, it will come back by the tsunamis, and it will level everything out. Just see 2 years or 3 years ago, the pandemic that we saw. There were so many things being told about the pandemic, the origin of the pandemic, the effects of the pandemic. But in one line, if we have to comprehend the pandemic's time, we can say that a greater chunk of our unhealthy population was washed out. If you have to say it in a very numerical way, though it can sound very rude, but if we term it in a very numerical way, we can say that a greater number of our unhealthy population was wiped out due to this virus. Because mostly the people who were affected, they were in some way or the other unfit. And the nature used its mechanism to wipe out a certain category of species from our human civilization. So the same thing does also happen in case of over deforestation. When we are doing wide scale deforestation in a place, do you think that nature cannot revert it? It is that helpless. Just see that the pace at which our deforestation rates are increasing, at the same pace, the landslide rates are also being affected all over the world. The landslide rates are being affected, the earthquake rates are being affected. So it is what? It is just the reaction of nature. So we need to know that the nature will definitely come back at us if we try to go beyond our threshold. So solutions now. A lot of problems have been told till now. So your perspective on the solutions, if you have any.
Solutions. The first and foremost thing, in my opinion, that has to be done, and it can be done easily by any government, is mass education or awareness. Like we need to first and foremost, identify the triggering factors, uh, and how can that can be that can be altered and led to a part of path of betterment. So mass education plays a very very important role out here. And secondly, in my opinion, is having professionals that are actually interested and are educated about that field, about in particular fields, to be employed and integrated in that particular field. And one person or a group of person should not do more than one job that they are not, pretty much knowledgeable about.
Yes, both of your points are very, I would say, to the point, and both of your points are exactly bang on. So, starting with your first point, education. Education is something that is highly debated about. So, what is this education about? Or what is this environmental knowledge about? Is it by including a subject called environmental studies in your syllabus? Is that education?
No,
Which
absolutely not.
which does not have any weightage, which nobody cares how much you score, nobody cares how much you learn. It is just there. It's even there in your honors days, in your graduation days. You will see there is a subject called EVS. They teach you that,
Hmm.
but in such a way as if nobody goes to those classes, nobody knows who your EVS teacher is. So it is a case of all the universities, all the schools all over in our country, that though we say that environmental studies is very important, but where is the weightage? You have not given any weightage to it. You have not made it essential for the students to learn it. So the students don't feel very highly invested in that. And so it's for this reason which I believe that Bookish knowledge here really cannot help the cause. Like say, let me coming to a very practical experience of mine. I went to a Sikkim village for one of my vacations. So there, what I had seen there, the children, the communities who don't even go to schools and colleges. I'm talking about tribal people living over there, a certain community. So the children ranging from the age group of 10 to 15, they guide the tourists in trekking. So don't you think that is a know-how of nature? If they do not have the know-how of the surroundings, of the mountains, of the vegetation, of the rivers, how is an 11-year-old boy, directing the tourists who are moving on that village for visit to move around the mountains, to go to their forests, to see where is the medicinal plants found, to see from where the waterfall is falling. All these things are something that have been integrated in them since childhood, from practical knowledge. It's not what they have learned in the books. That is why they are so good at it. So, like you told, that expertise is very important for the experts to take in these fields rather than people gaining many posts but have no knowledge about it. So these students have gained expertise, or these guys have gained expertise by staying in over there, by moving into those places day on day. So it's very essential to integrate yourself with your surroundings. That is the biggest problem which we see in, I would say, the urban life. The urban life, or to some extent, even the small town lives of students who go to schools every day in the morning, come back to home, go to their tuitions, then have a certain period of time for playing in and around. But even a 9th standard or 10th standard student, if you have a conversation with him about the environment, about the plants, about the general outcomes that can happen to the environment if we are littering around or if we are cutting down trees, you will see they will tell you only the bookish concepts. They have no practical experience of their own, because they hardly get the time to integrate with their nature. Hardly a boy or girl in and around us knows what kind of trees can be found around us, what kinds of birds are found around us, what kind of water quality can we see. These are things which can only be integrated or invested in you if you are moving in and around, if you are having practical experiences. So I believe that having in practical experiences of surroundings and environment is should be the first and foremost goal, which is also being done in many European countries. They try to take the students out, the school students, the college students out at least 2 3 days in a day, take in around their local community, show them the diversity around them. They take them to the communities, they take them to the villages in and around them, they take them to the, if there is a probable natural area like a mountain or a valley, they also take them to there. If they live in a plain land, they take them to the nearby river. So these are things which can only be integrated in a child by practical experiences. How will a child understand the importance of a river if he has never seen a river, more or less? And just think about a child who is shown the mechanism of how does a river ecosystem work every day or at least 3 days in a week. He is being taken to the river banks by his school or his college, or he is taken into the nearby mountain, nearby valley, or to a nearby forest by guiding them by experts. So that is the best knowledge they can have. So that is why you can see that the tribal groups have way more natural knowledge compared to the experts who sit in the laboratories. It is just due to this practical environment interaction that has been a part of human civilization since ages. We have been able to develop ourselves just because of this interaction. And it's very sad to say that with the growing of technology, we are again falling in the cocoon. We are again going back to the caves. We are not seeing what is happening in and around us. We are just being restricted to the screens in front of us rather than seeing what is happening around us. So that is the biggest constraint. That's why I believe only education will not help. Here, it is definitely important that you should design your courses in a more practical oriented format so that students have real life experiences rather than just reading them in books and papers. So that can be a good solution. And apart from that, you can see there are also certain examples of sustainable environmental practices like the using of renewable energy sources, implementing water conservation measures, and also promoting ecotourism. Now, what is this ecotourism? It is something that is very widely grown in these previous years. You have been learning about this term used more or less everywhere. So, do you have any idea what is actually this ecotourism?
Ecotourism is, I should say, modern capital and kind of capitalist approach to, you know, interact with the environment. Like they are encashing the, what should I say, the people visiting the nearby natures and experiencing the original natural form of any environment or ecosystem. They're encashing that portion, and they are making it seem like it has been pretty much conserved and specifically designed for the tourists, but it is not. Nature has been existing since time immemorial, and these tourists who mainly hail from uptown urban areas, they are paying money to actually see the environment and being lied to that it is being specifically conserved and well looked after. Like one of the biggest examples of ecotourism that can be seen in my area is the Sunadri Hat. That area has was a peaceful little creek and a small place, and mainly the tribal people here, the Adivasis. They supported themselves with selling handicraft items and all that. And this all started when I personally was 4 or 5 years. And after that, everything was capitalized and encashed to the point that everything is, you know, is in shambles.
So there
The
are so
nature,
many examples, like you mentioned, all over the country, all over the world, of these beautiful scenic places being turned into catastrophes. So there are so many examples that we can see all around us. So what I believe from here onwards is that the very term of tourism is something that we need to think about. I believe that tourism is something that is highly injurious for the nature. So we should rather focus on the concept of traveling rather than tourism. Now there is a very wide scale difference between a traveler and a tourist, because a tourist, if say for instance, let's take an example of a traveler who is going to Sahara Desert and a tourist who is going to Sahara Desert. So a tourist who will go to Sahara Desert, he will mainly plan out that on the first day he will visit this site, second day he will go to that site, third day he will stay in this and that resort or that hotel, fourth day he will come and use some, I would say, he will walk around the nature, the market, he will buy something from there. He will, litter around that space, he will throw around his garbage, he will have all the enjoyment he can have in that place, he will click pictures and he will board back. Now when a traveler goes there, his main motive or agenda is primarily to be in that place or to observe that place or to have an experience of that place. So for that, he integrates himself with the local community, he integrates himself with the local people, the local environment. So he follows the same methodologies in which the local surroundings behave. So this is a very big difference in between these two communities. Now, which is more capitalistic? It's very obvious. It is the tourists. The tourists give us money, and the tourists give these taxes. So it's very evident that the governments generally look for more and more tourists in their places. Like say for instance, I will draw a contrasting idea of two different places of so-called ecotourism and their perspectives. You will see that just by your perspective, how can the usage of a place change? Both of them are being termed as ecotourism spots. To start with, one being a part of Bengal. If you know that there has been a newly created Bengal safari, so-called Bengal safari in North Bengal, most probably nearby the Lataguri region. So they call it a ecotourism park or the Bengal safari. Now, by a safari, what do we understand? Do you have any idea of a safari?
yes, like mainly it's people traveling in a closed vehicles, to observe the wild animals in the wilderness that they reside in naturally.
Exactly, you're right. That to observe the wild animals, the wild plants, everything that is wild in their own atmosphere or in their own biosphere without disturbing them, right? This is the concept of ecotourism, which we know. Now, what have they done there in this so called Bengal safari? They have created they have taken a great place. Let's consider it to be 100 acres. Okay. Arbitrarily, we
Hmm.
can term it as 100 acres. In that 100 acres, they have created a section where they have put in a leopard by putting in a brick cage all over that area. By cage, I mean just a fencing, a wired fencing. And through that area, the tourist buses can go. and they give you 100% guarantee that you can see a tiger or a leopard there, because hardly a tiger gets, I would say, 4,000 or 500 square feet of place. So it's very evident if you're passing through a bus in a small constrained place, you will be observing a tiger in that place, because the tiger does not have any option to go anywhere because it is fenced all over. Where will it go? So they have created a big zoo by naming it a safari, a zoo that is rather bigger than the normal zoos. If you, then again the bus moves in, the Bengal Safari bus moves in, and another gate opens. Through that gate, you enter the leopard zone. That leopard zone is again that 300, 3,000 or 4,000 square feet area within which the leopard is moving, sitting, eating, whatever it is doing is that again in that small area. So they have created these fencings in that forested region and put in animals so that all the people can click photos, all the people can have an adventurous feeling, all the people can have an idea of a safari by not actually doing a safari. So this is some of the things that I just named Bengal government. Don't think that I'm just trying to slam any particular area or government. It is just an example that is being done in many other parts of our country and even other parts of the world also. The misconception of ecotourism that is being spread. Now, what is actual ecotourism? Let me tell you. Now we are moving on to some place that is an entirely different continent. It's in Africa, Kenya. So you remember that there is a very famous tribal group here living. We call it the Masai Mara, the
Yes,
Masai
sir.
people. So they also conduct, their government, the Kenyan government also conducts safari over there, the Masai region. Through that region, what is the process? The entire Masai region, as you know, it's open wilderness. Open
Hmm.
wilderness. So there are animals, there are birds, there are tribal groups, all living in open. So there is a simple entry ticket that a person is having to buy, along with a jeep that he has to rent and a tourist guide, and you are having a ticket of entering that area of the ticket varies for a period of 24 hours. So within the 24 hours, you can go as many times inside or outside. Nobody will stop you. So when you're entering it, you can see the Maasai, original Maasai villages. You can see how do the people live in the open wilderness. You can even buy products from their markets. I mean the Maasai markets. Let me tell you how. Like the products they make from the local wood, the products they make in from the medicinal plants. So like say for instance, if you can get that outside that zone at 10 rupees, the Maasai people sell at for 200 rupees. What is the reason? Because you know that Maasai people do not have any other option. Hardly the Maasai people have the option to come outside their wilderness and to go in the normal community. So every person who is being going into their territory, if they buy products from them at a higher cost, they are actually supporting their community. So this is a process that has been initiated by the government. So many tourists from all over the world are going there, they're buying their products, and the community is being benefited. And now let me tell you how this money from the markets, how is it divided? First of all, the markets are present in the wilderness. It is not like a shop or something that is created. It's totally open. They're sitting in the forest in an open area and selling products. Out of the selling products, 90% of the profits is going to the community. Say, for instance, if you are a Masai, you are selling some idols to me. I buy it in 100 rupees. You have to give 90 rupees to your Masai community, and 10 rupees will go to you. So, this is how they have planned the maintenance of the ecosystem of that area so that nobody will cut trees, nobody will kill animals, and the people living there will also earn profits. So this is something which you can call ecotourism. And now coming to the safari, when you are going through the jeep, you're actually moving in through a vast open jungle, vast open forest, which has no parameters, which has no fencing, nothing. There are certain ecotourism resorts in between the Masai region, and they have their fencing, because of an obvious reason, because wild animals can enter them and they can harm the people living there. So that's for that reason they have made the fencing, but they do not fence the wild animals. The wild animals are in the open. Human beings stay in the fence. So this is their concept. So you can see there is wide scale difference. While one area is actually doing ecotourism, that is what we can call ecotourism. which you are conserving the ecosystem, while the other is just, you know, making maximum cash by using this term ecotourism, which is not exactly what we can say as ecotourism. So this is also some problems of misconceptions that can play a role of interchanging relations between the human community and nature. Now the conclusion part comes. So what do you think? I gave you two very differential opinions or very differential takes to ecotourism. So what is your opinion? Which of these two you found more scientific and why?
Uh, the I'm sorry, the Masai region ecotourism activity, I found it to be more, considerate to all the, even the tribals, the wild animals, and the environment, because they are, not capitalizing, they are not economizing the hmm, total experience that you're getting there. Instead, whatever money you're spending there, totally directly goes to the tribals there, that they can utilize on their own for their sustenance. But whereas on the other hand, most, you know, other ecotourism areas, they have middlemen, or in Bengali we lovingly call them dalal.
Yes.
Those dalals, they only, they like
They
keep
take the
70% of the.
maximum chunk of the money and the communities are not benefited.
Absolutely.
So that is the reason why we see this sorry state of ecotourism or tourism in our country. Overall, India as a country, see what is the condition of our tourism. Hardly any foreign people come in our country. While smaller countries like Kenya, smaller countries like Cambodia, smaller countries like Malaysia, they have way bigger reach of foreign tourists every year compared to a widely diverse country like India. It's just of this reason that we could not create this proper community and natural balance. Because of this lack of vision, that is the reason why we see that India is not in the priority list of many of the world tourists. They do not like to travel to India because of these misconceptions that the government has created for many of the important community tourist spots. So, in conclusion, we can say that we have already explored the complex relationship by now between humans and environment in the desertic regions. We have also seen how desertification and climate change and resource exploitation can pose a significant threat to this delicate balance. We have also learned about the traditional knowledge and practices of some indigenous people that have helped them adapt to their environment, as well as the potential solutions such as the sustainable development and conversional efforts, which can help improve human environment relations in desertic regions. So we can say that it is very clear that action should be taken and must be taken to address these issues. And by working together and implementing the solutions that we had talked about by now, we should be able to create a more sustainable future for ourselves and the planet. So it's all that we'll be doing in today's session. I hope this session was helpful for you. And it was generally with primary focus with the desertic community with reference to how do they work and what is the general outcome of their lifestyles in their local environment. So your opinions now.
Actually, there is not much to say after this session because it was pretty explanatory and interactive, and I absolutely had all my doubts resolved. So, yeah, I don't have much to say.
Okay. So